It is said that the great Elie Wiesel was sitting melancholic next to the Lubavitcher Rebbe one Simchat Torah night, and Wiesel looked at the Rebbe and told him, at a moment of great personal pain and anguish, "Rebbe, where was God during the Holocaust? How can one believe in God after Auschwitz?" To which the Rebbe responded by saying, "How can one not believe in God after Auschwitz?" It took me many years to understand what the Rebbe was telling Elie Wiesel, and today I think I understand it. What the Rebbe was telling Elie Wiesel is that the Holocaust is not a result, God forbid, of divine indifference. The Holocaust is a direct result of what happens when humanity thinks that it can run its own course of events, relying only on its faculty of reason and some misguided notion of historical progress, while abandoning completely what we call in Western civilization the Judeo-Christian ethics and Judeo-Christian spirituality. Look at the Torah. God performs the 10 plagues, takes us out of Egypt, splits the sea. What happens immediately after that? The people have a crisis of faith. Some of them say to Moses, "Aren't there enough graves in Egypt that you took us to die here in the desert?" On the other hand, there were countless other generations who looked the angel of death eyeball to eyeball and knew that they're about to be murdered because they were born Jewish, but they maintained their faith in God, intact and unshakable to the last minute. Faith in God is not some stock in the NASDAQ that I invest in order to reap handsome dividends. Otherwise, everybody would observe religion. It would be cutting a deal. That's a very primitive theology. I think that our connection to Hashem is a little bit like spiritual exercise. Just like people exercise physically and go to the gym in order to be physically fit, we serve God spiritually and morally in order to be spiritually fit. Now, one can say to us, why bother exercise? Tomorrow, God forbid, that you could have a car accident, God forbid. But the answer is that we aspire to well-being on all levels. The best protection and the only protection that faith gives us is not a life insurance policy. That wouldn't be faith. That would be cutting a deal. What faith gives us is what the Kabbalists call, and we recite it every Friday evening in our service, a Sukkot Shalom, a tabernacle of peace. It empowers us with spiritual protection. And then whatever curveball life throws at us, we're able to maintain our inner equilibrium. There were people who marched into the gas chambers chanting, "Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema." I believe with a complete and utter faith. There were people like Rabbi Halberstam, who lost his 11 children and wife in Auschwitz, who came out of the camps even with a greater faith. There were people like my own paternal grandfather, the late Shlomo Sessler, who was a Holocaust refugee who lost his faith in the Holocaust. But ultimately, what's important to understand is that faith is not about bargaining with God and saying, "God, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and you're going to protect me and keep me healthy and wealthy." That's a child's faith. A Jewish faith is what philosopher Immanuel Levinas calls a religion for adults. Our religion, our faith, Jewish faith, is about having the courage to affirm life and to partner with God to rectify and repair this tortured and sublime world of ours, and to serve God in this world precisely as it is, with all the heartache and with all the genocidal atrocities inherent therein, were named after Jacob, Israel, Abram's grandson, who had a terrible life. He ran for his life from his brother. His uncle cheated him. His wife died while very young while giving childbirth. His daughter Dinah was viciously raped and violated. For 17 years he thought his beloved son Joseph was dead. He had a very difficult life, replete with loss and anguish and bereavement. Faith is not about a life insurance policy. Faith is about an invitation to live in vigor, to live in depth, to live in service of humanity and God Almighty. As we recite every Shabbat in the Aramaic from the book of Zohar, faith in Judaism is about those magnificent and unrivaled words, Anna avdat kutchabrichu. My life's goal is to be the servant of God Almighty. We seal in our hearts forever all the victims of the Holocaust, a third of our people, the Jewish people, the people Israel, and all the other human beings taken away so diabolically and monstrously by National Socialism. We vow to sanctify their memory by living Jewish lives and by leading exemplary human lives spiritually and morally. Never again, we shall never forget, and our revenge, if there is one, is making this world more peaceful, more humane, and more godly. Thank you, and God bless you.